Hey, what's up everybody? So welcome back to another tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to explain about the dynamic pie chart. So you see here is an example that I have my Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, Lenovo. So these are all my sales on base of the company. So you see here, if I want to check the Asus, so it's 3. So it means the total number of sales in this case is 3 and the percentage is 21.4. So each individual company should have its own sales. So you see here the percentage, the name, and everything is done with the help of Ajax and jQuery. We are able to fetch the data dynamically from the database and fetch using Ajax, so no page refreshing is required. So everything is all from the scratch. So I hope you guys will love it. So let's jump in and get started here. Alright guys, so first thing you need to do is to go to the developers.google.com/chart, and you see here the multiple options, so you can watch each of them. And we are going to work with the pie chart, so just click on here and open the view source for it. So you see here down towards that, and there is an example, my daily activities, and on the right you see word, eat, commute, watch TV, sleep, with the individual color that indicates that this is the 45.8 percentage with the total number and the title on the top, which is work, right? So you see here, that's how useful this Google core chart, pie chart. There are great examples out there, so you can watch that, and a very basic simple code. So with the help of that, you see here inside the array to data tables, which is coming static, and all the data is inside that, and we are gonna create that dynamically and insert that data in database, and with the help of that we're going to fetch the data and display it, right? So that's the whole documentation and almost all the things that we needed. So make sure your XAMPP server should be on and you install that, and I already have that, and my GitHub repository for this, you see here I have my query. If you want to directly grab this code, you can simply go and clone that, or you can simply insert the query and go back to back with me, right? So you see here that should be inside your /master/query.txt. I want to give that in the description, so you can simply add that, right? Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is to install the Laravel. Make sure you have your basic things installed. So I have my composer installed, so I'm going to go and see my version, so it's installed properly. And next thing that I'm going to see my PHP version, which is 8. So just want to see that everything has been properly installed. Alright, so next thing that I need to hear is the composer create dash project Laravel/Laravel, and give the name of the chart, which in my case should be the project name, which is pie_chart, and press enter. So this is going to take a while, and I will be right back once it's installed. Alright guys, so now it's been installed properly, and next thing I'm going to do is to cd into pie_chart, the name of my project, and I'm going to open up with my VS Code. So simply type code space dot, and you use VS Code, then it's going to only open up, right? You can use any editor if you want, right? So the next thing that I'm going to do is just to zoom in so you guys could see properly. Alright, so oops, that. Alright, that looks better. Alright, so the first thing that you need to do is to go to your .env file and make sure you have your database name correctly assigned here. So in my case, it should be pie_chart, and just simply grab this one, and it should be the same name inside your localhost phpMyAdmin. So just click on the new button, and right inside here pie_chart, and you can also create table custom, or you can just simply run the migration, which is a better approach. So we are going to follow up that, right? So let's go back here, and the next step that I'm going to do is to create a model, which is basically the table. Alright, so let's click on the terminal and new terminal, and right over here just clear out everything here, and I'm going to just open up already one more shell, so close that, and let's write here PHP artisan make model, and let's give it the name of the model should be data analytics. Alright, so -m for migration. So this is going to also run the migration. Make sure it should be visible, right? So make sure you write -m, right? And press enter. So you see the model created successfully. So if you go inside your database and migrations, and right over here, by default, there is a user's a password and the personal access token, but this is the one that we just created up, and you see here we have an ID and the timestamp, which is by default created with the migration, right? and we are gonna add up two more fields here, so 2 or 3 fields here. So let's gonna add up here. So let's try it here, table string, and right inside that I'm gonna define my name. So just simply copy that up and paste it 2 more times here, and this should be of type month. Make sure it should be string, and in my case the last one, which should be the year, I'm gonna convert that into integer and simply define up here the year. All right, so once you're done with the migration here, all you need to do is to simply run the migration, just clear that up, and PHP artisan migrate, and that's going to run the migration for us. So if I go back to the database inside pi_chart and click on the data_analytics, and you see here we have the name, month, and year with also predefined fields inside the migration, which is the created at, updated at, and the ID, which is basically created at and updated at is created by this timestamp, right? All right, so just close out everything here, and I'm going to define a very basic, first we have to see how our pie chart looks like. So let's go inside our resources views. So that's where everything you see on the browser is basically loaded from the views. So I'm going to rename that, and let's give it the name of chart.blade.php. All right. So actually it should be chart.blade. I have my 2 dots in, so just remove that one here, and I'm going to remove everything from here, right? I just want to make things very simple. All right, so let's go back to the example that we have and just grab this complete code. I'm going to copy it from here, so it's copied up, and just simply paste up here and save it. So next thing that I'm going to do here is to define the routes. So I need to go to my routes folder, which should be in your root directory, and go to your web.php file and just remove this from here. So what I'm going to do here is to define my very first route. So route get request, it should be the get request because we are loading the view, and we are loading the view from the controller, so it should be the get request. And let's also create the controller. So I'm going to also create a controller just like we created the model here, right? So PHP artisan make controller, and the name of the controller in my case should be chart controller, right? And simply press enter. And if I go back inside my app, HTTP controllers, and here you see here we have a chart controller.php file, right? So let's go back here inside that and define your controller path. So which in my case should be the best approach is that you have to define your use just like that. Rather, I should give the complete path, and right again and again I need to pass the app/http controller, which is the path for the controllers. So it's a better approach to apply that, right? So let's try it here, app/http/controllers/ and the name of the controller in my case, which is chart controller, and that's it, all we need. All right, so let's go down here. Oops. So let's go down here and define here the chart controller and pass here the class, and the name of the method, which in my case should be index, and that's all we need, right? So let's go inside your controller, which should be inside your, as I've shown you the path, and define here the function. So public function, and the name of the method, which in my case is index. So return view, and just give it the name of the file which we have, which is the chart. As you could see here inside my views, we have chart.blade.php, and that should be the name of the method. Make sure it should be same, right? Everything looks fine. Now just simply clear that up and run the server, which is PHP artisan serve. And if I go back to the browser and run my server, and you see now we have our pie chart loaded up here. Now you see here each data. Now this is all the example, and all the data is statically defined inside your chart.blade.php. Let me just close that up and show you. So we have our very basic, we have a package name. So you see here google.charts.load. Whatever you define inside the package, if it should be a bar chart, you have to define the package. If it's a line chart, so everything is defined inside this packages. Now this will load the callback, and draw chart is basically the function where the data is in the form of array to data table, and that's how its data is presentable. So we have to do here a trick we have to convert that array to data table in the same format as defined, but we have to use something which is known as columns. So you see here, it's a very basic example. So just suppose that this should be the key and this should be the value for the task, and we have to convert, and these are the two columns. So the first column is for the label, and just assume that the next column is for the value, which you see down here. The work is the label, and the given workers are 11, so that should be the value. So we have to create two columns, and that's how we can add the data, right? So I'm going to show you in a little while. So this is the options you see here. The title, my daily activities, that's what is displayed right up on the left of it. So that makes sure this should be the title for this. And as explained, that each color indicates this should be basically the label for that, or whatever you could say, that the defined data, the tasks which are assigned for the worker, eat whatever he applied. And next to that, we have to grab this ID, which is a pie chart, everything that is loaded up here. So this is the DOM property, and that will get the pie chart ID, which is defined inside. I'm going to show you. That should be inside the body, which is defined right down here. So this is pie chart. This loaded up inside the DOM, and that's going to draw two things here. First, we have to pass the data that we have, which is coming from the array to data tables, and next the options there, right? And down here you see we have the width and the height, which in my case I don't need that in that way. Just keep that and save it and refresh this how it looks. So this looks like something like this, right? All right, so we have to do a few changes here, right? I'm going to write a very basic style.css file. So make sure that if you are you're happy with that stuff, so that will really good. Okay, so let's go down inside my body, and even though inside the scripts, right after the scripts, I'm going to define here style tags. So inside my style tag, I have a very basic CSS here. So let's first define the container. So we have our padding should be 0, margin should be 0. Next we have our h1 heading, that should be out of the container class. Next we have the h1, let's give it the color white, and I want the background should be dark gray, and the padding, give it the padding 8 pixel, and left bottom 4 pixel. Next thing that I need is the text align center. Alright, so next here we also need to define something which is known as the chart underscore wrap, which I need to wrap the data, the chart position. So what I'm going to do here is, so right after the container, so I'm going to remove or cut this out for a while and define here the container. Inside container, I'm going to define here dynamic chart, or you could say here dynamic pie chart, Ajax or core chart, whatever you could name it. So Ajax and jQuery, right? So whatever you could write here. Next we have our, right after the div, I'm going to define here the ID with the wrap underscore chart underscore wrap. And inside here, I'm going to define my pie chart, right? So if I go back and see, everything looks, so it looks something like that. So let's add some positions for the chart. So right after the H1, I'm going to define here the class for the chart underscore wrap. So let's give it the position of relative, and add some padding from the bottom, which should be 100%. Let's define height of 0 and overflow hidden. And last thing that we need for the pie chart, so it should be a position of absolute, and let's give it the top 0, left 0, and the width of 50%. and I'm gonna give it the height of 40% if you want, right? So let's see how it looks. So if I go back to my Chrome browser and refresh that, so it looks something like that, right? So it's gonna be more visible. All right, so we are done with the very basic UI changes. That all we need. Now let's go back inside the database, and I'm going to add the data. As you see, the migration loaded successfully as we run PHP artisan migrate. So I'm going to go and fetch this, and I'm going to give this link in the description, or either you can go to my repo and directly grab this query and insert that. So let's make sure you're inside this table py_chart. Let's go inside the query, and it should be inside your SQL, and just simply add up here and click the go button, and it's the data should be inserted inside my data_analytics table. All right, so now you see all the data is successfully inserted. All right, so that's it, guys. So that's the very basic first part. So I will be right back once after a very short break. All right, guys, so welcome back here. So let's go inside our resources views chart.blade.php, and let's work on the data which should be dynamic coming from the database. So what I'm going to do is to just remove this data and keep that simple. And one more thing I need to do is, if I just want to put those all script down after the ending body tag, make things very cleaner and easier to understand. So I'm going to remove those script from the head tag and keep that separate, and right after the body I'm going to define my scripts, right? Okay, so we also have to define here a library which is jQuery for Ajax functionality. All you need to do is to just search for code.jQuery.com and grab this uncompressed version and put that right after the loader.js script, sorry. All right, so once it's done, let's go inside the controller and write a query. So what I'm going to do next, so I want all the businesses, means that if I go back to my migration, the query that I inserted, you see here the name and the month and the year. So I need to count those names, which comes how many times. That means that total number of sales, how many sales for the HP, how many sales for the Lenovo. So let's write a very basic query and then convert that into the Laravel. What I'm going to do is, actually I need to select and count all the total sales. So let's give it the total underscore sales, and I should have to define here an analysis for as, and I also need to grab the name, and that should all coming from the data analytics, and I need to group by on base of name, and this query will help me and find out the total number, how many times those Acer only have a one sale, Asus has sale of 3 times, Dell 2. So this query will help us to count the total number of sale on base of name. And later on, once we're going to apply here the filter, as you could see here inside the data, the years, we can filter out the data on base of year, which I'm going to do in the next part of this video. So let's write here a function. So the function should be public function, and it should be spelled right. So let's give it the name of the method, which would be fetch data. Right inside here, $data equal to, we have to define here model and the DB query for the raw. So let's define a data analytics, and I also need to define here use DB. Make sure it should be inside your app/model/ right. Okay, that's fine. So let's define here data analytics and select, as you could see in my SQL query, just to make things simpler for you guys to see what I'm going to do. So let's count all and give it the name of as total underscore sales and the name, and group by on base of name and get the data. All right, then we have to loop the data and convert that into the array. And we have two things. We have total number of sales and we have name. So let's define here name and give it the raw of name. And next we have total number of sale, which should be $row total underscore sales. All right. So right after the loop, we have to just simply, actually I missed something here. We have looped the data. Yeah, I need to also convert that into the output. So let's define in the form of array. So it should be like that. All right, so that looks fine. Now we have to convert that into we have to convert the array into JSON. So all I need is JSON underscore encode method and simply pass the output here. All right, so that's it for the controller part. Next thing that I need here is to go inside my routes and define here the route for my fetch data. So it should be a get request. Make sure it should be fetch underscore data and the name of the method, which in my case is fetch data, and simply define up here. So we are done with the route part as well. Now let's go back to the chart.blade.php, and that's where everything is coming from. As you could see, we have our array to data table, and I explained we have two columns. We have to first the column for the labels for the type of string, and next is for the number. So I'm going to do here is right after the closing of array to data table, we have to define data dot add column, and right inside here I'm going to define two things. So let's pass this parentheses because we have two type. We have to define two parameters. So the first should be the type. So the first type is for string, and second for the label. So let's give it the label of name, semicolon, close that up. And I'm going to copy this same thing here, and the second type is for the number, where we have the numbers values, and that should be for the sales. All right, so that's it, all we need. All right, so let's write here a function. So I'm going to write a very separate script here. And right inside the script, I'm going to define a function load underscore data, and inside that function, inside this Ajax call, let's pass here the URL, which should be fetch underscore data. Next we have a method of get request, and next last thing that we here is the data. So let's pass here the token here, which should be CSRF underscore token, which is for the protection. And that's all we need, and we have to convert that data in the form of JSON. So data type should be of type JSON, and the last thing is we have a success function, and let's pass here the data, and I need to call the method here. So the method that is being called here is the drawChart method, and what I'm going to do here is this method should be called right inside my Ajax, and the data that we need to pass is all inside the drawChart. Now we have a drawChart here. So next we have to this data is passed to the function of drawChart, and we have to give it pass the parameter here as well. So let's give it the name of drawChart, and right inside that I'm going to create here a variable with the name of JSON data, and the data which is passed in, so which should be a drawChart. Yeah. All right, so let's loop the data right after the column. So it should be $.each, and pass here the JSON data and the loop for this. So I and the JSON data. So we have two things here. First, we have the name and the total number of sales. So let's give it the variable of name. So it should be JSON data dot name. And for the total number of sales, let's give it the name of total underscore sales equal to JSON data dot total number of sales. All right, and we have to add this inside the row. So data dot and give it the name of add rows, and right inside here I'm going to define my array in the form of, first we have the name and next we have the total number of sales. So the last thing is that we have to call the method. So right inside the set on load callback, we have to call the method we have of load underscore data. So grab this one, and regardless of this draw chart, the data which is coming from this method using Ajax, so I need to define here load underscore data, and that's all we need, right? So let's go back and see everything works well. So I'm going to refresh this. Yeah, the data is not loaded. Let's go to the console, refresh this out, and we are getting nothing. You're going to see, yeah, we have called the method load underscore data, and the data which is coming in. So let me console the log here right after the data which is looping from here. So JSON data. So if I go back and refresh this, yeah, it's showing us the data Lenovo 3, but the collection is not gonna show. So if I go back to the controller and the query works in get all the data and get the result as an array. Oops, actually it should be an array like this. So the brackets are missing for the array. So now if I go back and refresh this, and you see here it's gonna work, right? So you see here for the Acer we have total number of sales, which should be 1. If I just hover on it, you see here, right? So we are almost done here, right? So you guys could see how easier and how nicer it is to work with the pie chart with the help of Ajax and jQuery. In the next coming part of this video, we are gonna filter the result on base of year. So thanks guys for watching this. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I want to see you for the next time.